Channel open. Welcome back to WeeklyTrek, a proud member of the Tricorder Transmissions podcast network and presented in partnership with TrekCore.com. I am your host, Alex Perry.
What's today's date? The date.
Today's show was recorded on April 28th, 2022, and is current through the Star Trek Picard episode Hide and Seek, so beware of spoilers. And if you are in one of the regions where any of the Star Trek shows have not yet aired, and you are trying to stay spoiler-free, be sure to check the episode article on TrekCore for time codes for each of our stories tonight in order to avoid them. All right, let's get into the show.
Good day, Voyager, and welcome to A Briefing with Neelix. It's a catchy title, isn't it?
WeeklyTrek is a regular news show covering the biggest stories from the Star Trek franchise. We are in a new golden age of Star Trek. There are 5 television shows in production, possibly more on the way, and enough merchandise to fill the Bajoran wormhole. So stick with me and I'll help you sort the real facts from lots of the Dominion propaganda that you'll find online. But I can't do this alone. And my guest this week is one of the organizers of the Star Trek Book Club on Twitter. It's Peter Hong. Peter, welcome to WeeklyTrek.
Hello. Hey, Alex. It's great to be here. Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Well, it is my pleasure to have you. Well, Peter, I ask my guests this question every week. I want to know what's got you feeling excited about Star Trek at the moment. What's got you moving at Warp 10?
Sure. Well, what's got me moving at Warp 10 is the Picard Season 2. That's going on, and it's wrapping up right now and wrapping up soon.
One more to go.
One more to go. And it's my favorite live action Kurtzman era season so far.
Very nice. Okay, yeah. Tell me why.
So, well, I like it was the sort of the start of season 2 really kicked it off on a very high note with the Stargazer and Penn and sort of that first 2 episodes. So I think at least for me, the story is a little stronger in season 2 compared to season 1. The characters, and we're bringing back a lot of the Q, Guinan, as well as the original Picard cast. So a lot of the callbacks, I think there was having something as simple as, having a Federation starship at the beginning with Stargazer to kind of set the stage for season 2. So, having Q back, of course, and then time travel. Have a soft spot for time travel stories on Star Trek. So I enjoy that. And it has a little bit, some echoes of, Voyage Home and Past Tense and Future's End, some of the different time travel stories. So I think I like that. I know it has had its ups and downs, sort of its cycle like a lot of, serialized, stories have these days. So I know that, some ups and downs, but I think overall I've really enjoyed it. Sort of Picard's backstory has been examined a little bit more than in the past. So those were, the Confederation, that future, that was focused on episode 2. So I think when you kind of add it all up, I've been enjoying it, and I've, one more episode to go, looking forward to how it's end. I just hope it doesn't have a cliffhanger. That's the only thing. Because, you think, best of both worlds for 3 months is bad.
Sure.
You would have to wait 12 months or some other long period of time for the conclusion. So I hope it's they could at least, kind of have a self-contained one and end it. And then we know what happens next week. But we'll see what happams. Mm-hmm.
I think we might have a cliffhanger, but I will say more about that at the end of the episode in my theory for this week.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I am really enjoying season 2. I really liked today's episode, Hide and Seek. I thought it kind of tied many of the sort of themes of the season together really well. A lot of the Picard backstory, the Jurati Borg Queen relationship. I actually really liked that this sort of felt like half of a finale, right? Like several of the sort of storylines of the season really felt like they kind of wrapped up in today's episode. Now, there's obviously still a huge amount left for them still to resolve, but I think one area where I was sort of frustrated with Star Trek Discovery season 4 was they didn't let themselves finish some of that stuff in like the episodes leading up to the end of the season. They kept everything for the end. Whereas I think Picard has done a better job of balancing out how to close down some of those stories in a way that gives those stories room to breathe while then, still kind of giving more time for other stuff to happen. So yeah, and I've also been really enjoying the time travel piece, but I am really looking forward to them, hopefully next episode, maybe at some point in the episode, getting back to the 25th century and what waits for them there when they do.
Yeah. I was actually hoping this was at maybe at the end of maybe episode 2 or 3, when I was hoping they would actually get back to the 25th century, maybe like episode 7, 8, somewhere a little earlier, because I was having it get back on that last episode just has a lot of, like you mentioned before, has a lot of things to wrap up in 50 minutes or so. So, but I was hoping they would get back earlier and kind of extend it, but unfortunately that isn't the way the way it's working out. So, which is fine. So I guess we'll sort of see what happens. I'm looking forward to next week, and it's been sort of building up over the last 9 weeks or so. So we'll see, and hopefully I'm sure it'll be interesting.
Well, let me tell you what I'm feeling good about Star Trek this week. It's also in the vein of Star Trek Picard season 2, and it's actually something that was just announced today, which by the time folks are listening to this, you can actually go out and buy already, and that's the Star Trek Picard season 2 soundtrack release. So yeah, they announced today the season 2 soundtrack release will be released on Friday, April the 29th. That's the day after that's tomorrow from when we're recording. But if you're listening to this Monday when the episode drops, it was 3 days ago. So head over to wherever it is you get your digital soundtrack from and make sure you grab yourself a copy. And I'm really looking forward to this one tomorrow. I have enjoyed the music for Star Trek Picard season 2 a lot. And I will also note that the soundtrack also includes the Alison Pill cover of the Pat Benatar song from Fly Me to the Moon. So there's a lot to look forward to on that soundtrack release, and I'm really looking forward to listening to it. And I've been really enjoying the way that they have been, for each of the seasons. We've not gotten Discovery season 4 yet, but for each of the seasons, they've been releasing soundtracks associated with them, so we can get that music in a really timely manner. I mean, I just got the other week, La La Land Records put out their last collection of music from the Berman era show called the Final Frontier Collection, which is great because there's all kinds of, fun episodes on there from the 90s. But we're getting those 20 years after they came out. It's nice to get Star Trek Picard season 2 soundtrack before the season finale even drops. So yeah, it's a fun one for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't hear of that today. So
breaking news for you, Peter.
Yeah, it is breaking news. I'm gonna pick it up. I enjoy listening to two soundtracks as well, and kind of a little bit like background music for me, or study music. So just on the side, or work music while I'm working, I would listen to Star Trek music. So yeah, but I think I've enjoyed. I think that the theme song for season 2 took me a little bit to get used to, because I think I'm just used to season 1. So that change in pace took a little bit. But after I think one or two episodes, it was like, okay, it's nice as well, and I like that too. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, let's turn to the week's top stories.
There's a war going on, and I'm a reporter.
Well, we are inching closer to the premiere later this week of Star Trek Strange New Worlds' first season, and the hype machine is rolling on, this week with a series of interviews with the cast to promote the upcoming series pilot. Asked about his most striking interaction with the fandom, Captain Christopher Pike actor Anson Mount responded, quote, "I have to lead with the most obvious answer, which was to see this fan movement to want to make the show happen. It has changed my life. It goes beyond just another job, albeit at a very particularly bad time for actors. But my inclusion in this universe has fleshed out my love of Trek. It's brought me into the family and culture of Trek, not just the fandom of Trek. It has given me the wherewithal to entrust my ability to have a family. It's given me a lot, and I'm very grateful for it." Spock actor Ethan Peck talked about the collaborative nature of his relationships with the Strange New Worlds writers' room in fleshing out the part of Spock. He said, quote, "And it's a very collaborative effort between myself and the writers and producers and the other creative forces behind our show, because that's a huge task that I don't think I can shoulder by myself. I think there are certain touchstones qualitatively about the character that I probably couldn't articulate to you very well that just feel right, and I hope to appear in a way that looks accurate in our final product. But that's a very collaborative effort, the calibration." And Rebecca Romaine hinted at number one's arc in the first season when she said, quote, "And I think what we see in the development is we learn a secret about her in episode 3. I think we find out that's why she's so good at her job. She sort of hides behind meticulous work, and she is slightly intimidating to the rest of the crew to keep her distance so that nobody finds out it's the secret that she's hiding. So it's a fun layer to play. The writers floated this idea to me pretty early on, and I just thought it was such an incredible layer to the character. And we were going to keep exploring that in a pretty major way throughout the season." Peter, Strange New Worlds coming up next week. Obviously, all we've seen is sort of, trailers and interviews and all of that stuff. But from what you have seen thus far, what is your impression of Strange New Worlds?
Oh, very excited, looking forward to it, very positive. I mean, I like Discovery, I like Picard, but watching Star Trek in the 80s and 90s with that episodic approach, and really, having that live action episodic Star Trek is really what I was, looking for, hoping for. So, and from all the different, as you mentioned, from all the different trailers and the videos, that's sort of the spirit I think that this series is going to have. So definitely looking forward to it. I mean, a lot of planets they seem to be visiting, and, a lot of, some aliens, all the different situations, different scenarios. So, really, I'm, looking forward to it. And I think it will be successful. I think there is a sort of different Star Trek for different audiences. So this is one audience that anyone who's interested in this type of storytelling, will do well. I mean, one thing with serialized is that, if you kind of have one story and then that kind of lasts the 10 episodes or 12 episodes, but if it doesn't grab you or doesn't really interest you, it's a little bit hard to sort of keep going. So here you just have, one story per episode. If it doesn't grab you, you kind of have the next weeks to maybe grab you, and then just keep on working through it. So I think that is a great approach. And I think it's sort of thanks to the fans. I think with the popularity from Discovery season 2, I think the modern version of a write-in campaign, with the different feedback and social media and on Twitter and Facebook and everything. So it's kind of that interest of having that, exploring that era with these particular actors is great. So I'm, really looking forward, and I hope it continue, it's going to last as many seasons and just keep going, and, and we get a chance to see that. So I think it's really great. One thing that was funny when you mentioned about the hype, all the different advertising, I take the subway to go to work, and I did see those video monitors.
Oh yeah, all over the New York subway. Yeah,
exactly, all over the New York subway system. So I ended up looking at watching it in a little bit and just seeing it. So it's nice that they're doing that. They've done things like that a little bit, on and off, but it's nice to do something to get the attention and get the people interested, get the fans interested in it. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it'll be great. It'll be a great experience. Then it'll be sort of another series, like as you said, sort of a golden age of Star Trek, and having a new series coming out is always a very happy time for the fandom.
Yeah, they really are leaning into the promo campaign for this one. So in my last episode, I was obviously trying to be super circumspect because I have seen the first 5 episodes of season 1.
Oh, okay.
Now, by the time this episode comes out, the red carpet premiere will have happened, and there is a round of non-spoiler reviews that are being posted the next day. So I think I can talk in a non-spoilery way about my opinion of the first 5 episodes. So I'm going to try and do that now, which is to say that, and I used the words in the last episode, I think that Strange New Worlds is the one that people have been waiting for. And I sort of want to expand a little bit more upon those remarks, which is that the first 5 episodes of Star Trek Strange New Worlds are great, right? Like that is half of season 1, and it is great. So we're well on the way to a great season 1 of Star Trek. Even more than, I think, for Star Trek Picard season 2, everybody loved the first 2 episodes, and then opinions started to diverge a little in 3, 4, and 5. Opinions will not diverge for the first 5 episodes of Strange New Worlds. I promise you, everybody's going to think they're great. The show does most successfully what I think is mixing together those elements of classic Star Trek that you know and love with some of the modern sensibilities, right? You've already seen in the trailers some of the ways that plays out in terms of the Enterprise sort of set designs are they're sort of 2022 interpretations on those classic 1966 designs. They're not exactly the same. They're a bit different in places, but they're very evocative of those designs in a way that we did not see in Star Trek Discovery and a way that we did not see in the Kelvin Timeline movies. I think where the show really, really knocks it out of the park, though, is the way that this show is an ensemble show for the crew of the Enterprise, right? This is not a star vehicle for 1 or 2 actors with everybody else playing second fiddle. In the first 5 episodes, there are great storylines for pretty much the whole cast, with the exception of one of the characters. And I'm going to guess episode 6 is probably that character's like vehicle to do this, because they do seem to be very intentionally balancing character time across the 5 episodes. The effects are next level beyond what we have seen in live action Star Trek, better than what you've seen in Star Trek Picard, better than what you've seen in Star Trek Discovery. There's a ton of really fun callbacks. There are some decisions that are going to be controversial, right? There's some canon stuff that they've done that people are, let's just say there are some people who are not going to like very much.
There'll be a debate.
Yeah, there's going to be a debate about it, right? We're Star Trek fans. There's always a debate. And I can tell you right now what the things we're going to debate about are. But I'll be honest, like no one who really sees this show for what it is going to care about any of that, because it's these first 5 episodes are great. People are going to have a great time. We have a really fun Star Trek show coming up. And I use that term very pointedly. It's a really fun Star Trek show. It's also a very sexy Star Trek show. I said this in the last episode, I'm going to repeat it again. It's actually the sexiest show that we've gotten, right? Not like Lower Deck sexy, but like actually sexy. It is really, really good. If you're not feeling, to the listeners out there who are not feeling a maximal amount of excitement about this show or feeling any element, I think, of trepidation about it, I'm here to tell you that in my opinion, it rules and you should be feeling very excited about it. So yeah, obviously we'll get more into details of what happens in episode as we get into it. And the last thing I'll say is they're not bullshitting when they say this is a return to episodic Star Trek. Oh, cool. Each of the 5 episodes that I have seen so far are individual self-contained stories. Yes, there are character through lines that run throughout them, but they very much in that regard feel like much more classic kind of episode structure than previous ones. There's even an episode which I would describe as having, for the 50 minutes of the episode, very low stakes, right? Like it's not a, yeah, it's not a, there's one episode that is ultra high stakes, and then the next episode is ultra low stakes, and it is such a nice study in contrast that I'm so dying to talk more about this show, but people are going to have a great time.
Great. No, thanks, Alex. That's great information and feedback on it. And it's funny that you mentioned about the high stakes versus low stakes, because when I was thinking about Strange New Worlds, I was thinking, can we have, an hour like a Data's day, like a day, an episode in which, Nog and Jake, tries to sell some yamak sauce, it's all these little, day in the life of Star Trek. And I mean, having high stakes stories is fine, but if we have too many high stakes, it's not high stakes anymore, because it just kind of gets a bit kind of a little bit been there. So I think having that variation of storytelling and types of stories, I think will help improve the franchise in general. Actually, it may, kind of, help improve all the shows. So it's great that there's going to be at least some more variations on the type of stories that, that Strange New Worlds will have. So I'm looking forward to even more after hearing what you talked about over the last few minutes. So that's great. I'm, definitely looking forward to that start. Mm-hmm.
Well, the Strange New Worlds fun continues in New York City for the next few weeks, with a red carpet premiere for the show this weekend, so a couple of days ago from when you're listening to this, and an exhibit of props and costumes at the Paley Center in New York City, which runs between now and the end of May. The prop and costume exhibit is the same one that was at Star Trek Mission Chicago a few weeks ago, but now more fans will have the opportunity to see some of the iconic props and the great costumes from the new series. In addition to the display, the Paley Center will also be running screenings of the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Strange New Worlds and other famous pilots from the Star Trek franchise. And in addition, there will also be Star Trek Prodigy-themed family activities and craft projects. Peter, if I recall correctly, I don't even need to recall correctly, you told me you take the subway to work every day, so Paley Center, right? It's in New York City. You think you're going to hit it up at some point before the end of May?
Oh, yes, definitely. It's not too far away from my work, actually. So so I'm definitely going to go there. I like these types of, traveling Star Trek exhibits that, shows up every few years or so. I've been to a couple of them, over time. So I definitely would like to go to the Paley Center and see that. I saw some of the pictures from Mission Chicago, with the costumes and props. And I always, kind of enjoy watching that. So I think that's going to be great. I'm definitely going to go there probably, sometime in May a little bit once the crowd dies down, and then, but I'm definitely going to go there. And one thing actually that was very nice that they're doing, I think the Paley Center is having like a kids program during the weekend.
Yes.
In which they have like activities and sort of family activities, and they have screenings of Prodigy, and I think TAS as well. So it's really nice that, and this is part of that, trying to expand the fan base in, trying to, have kids interested, like, with shows like Prodigy. So it's nice that they're doing that as well. So this way it brings a little, maybe the next generation of fans into Star Trek. So it's a nice move that they're doing there.
Yeah, I saw the exhibit when it was obviously at Mission Chicago, and it's great. The props are incredible. The costumes are really, really well done and well made. Yeah, and I like the fact that for Strange New Worlds, they're doing everything on the East Coast rather than doing it in LA, where most of the stuff normally is, right? The premiere for Picard and the Picard exhibits all took place on the West Coast. This one's on the East Coast. The red carpet premiere for Strange New Worlds is on the East Coast. I think because the Strange New Worlds cast is filming in Toronto right now for season 2, it's much easier for them to hop on a plane and fly to New York City and then back to Toronto rather than Toronto to LA for all of it. So we get lucky that because they're filming, that's going to take place on the East Coast rather than on the West Coast, which is fun because, we just get the opportunity to enjoy some of that. Can't let LA have all of the fun. And yeah, very cool, the Paley Center, that they're doing this and continuing to do it. I think they've had a decent amount of success with these sort of touring prop and costume exhibits, especially now that they have an official Star Trek convention that they can do some of that stuff at, in addition to the cruise and in addition to tied into the new show. But again, it's just another way, another fun way of growing the excitement and the hype for the show, of providing this opportunity for fans to, and not just the fans who pay to fly to Chicago for Mission Chicago, get up close and personal with the props and costumes. And yeah, definitely a really good accompaniment for seeing a couple of episodes of Strange New Worlds for sure.
Yeah, and I hope they continue to do these types of traveling exhibits or convent, like Mission Seattle will be next year. Mission Chicago was this year. So they're going to be traveling. And if they continue to do these types of traveling events, that's going to also help, grow the fan base, because it'll bring the content and bring the message to the fans, rather than having the fans all have to, fly to a certain place to, to see it. So it's great that do that. And I hope they continue to do that and just sort of spread it around everywhere.
Well, shifting gears to Star Trek Lower Decks, the show's 10-episode second season will be getting a DVD and Blu-ray release on July 12th. The set will include a number of special features, including, pleasingly, a return to audio commentaries, which were lacking from the season 1 set. Kayshawn, His Eyes Open, An Embarrassment of Duplers, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, and Wage Juge get commentaries from Mike McMahon and various members of the cast and crew. If past is prologue, home media release in markets where Amazon is broadcasting Lower Decks should not be too far behind the US release date, and may come as soon as August, when it will have been 1 year since the show premiered on the service. That's what happened with Picard Season 1's Blu-ray release when that came out. Peter, will you be picking up the Season 2 Blu-ray of Star Trek Lower Decks?
Yes, I am. It's been pre-ordered, so I'm going to be getting that. I mean, I'm not a big physical disc. I do have a few, season sets of a few of the series over the years, but I don't collect a lot of them. But they actually got me with the audio commentary for Wage Douche. So when I saw that they're going to have that, I did wanted to get that. I mean, that's probably my second favorite episode of the season. But the character of T'Lyn is really my favorite, sort of the favorite new character for Lower Decks. So they're having the voice actress Gabrielle Ruiz, who's going to be part of that. So I said, I want to learn more about that. And they have I think the writer of the episode, who's going to be part of that as well. So yeah, so I'm going to get that. And I kind of like, the behind the scenes and the making of, those types of extras in, when it comes with these the Blu-rays and DVDs. I like to, watch those types of programs. So I'll be getting that one. I mean, Lower Decks actually, it actually surprised me that, right now Lower Deck has been my favorite Star Trek series from this era. So I kind of like that, kind of the humor and the references, but also, captures the spirit of the Star Trek, but kind of funny, pretty funny and well done. So, so I've been enjoying that and, sort of keep it going. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm loving Lower Decks. Can't wait for season 3 to come back later this year. And yeah, I really liked the season 1 Blu-ray set for Lower Decks. My favorite special feature on a Star Trek kind of Blu-ray that I watched in a long time was the one they had on the season 1 set around how do they make an episode of Lower Decks, right? Because, I'd never sort of thought too much about the animation process and how does an episode of an animated TV show get made? And so that was absolutely fascinating, kind of learning about the process behind that and all the different stages to it and how it all fits together. So yeah, that was terrific. And we were robbed of some commentaries in that because it's such a funny cast and and Mike McMahon's hilarious. hilarious, and a lot of the people affiliated with the show are also hilarious. So, just kind of getting them together and riffing for 22 minutes about the episode they made, right? Like, that could be really funny in itself. Like, I think these are going to be funny commentaries, and for that reason, I'm excited to listen to them.
Yeah, I think hopefully they'll continue to include these, because that is a feature that I think a lot of folks want, having audio commentaries, and and especially with that cast, as you say, it's a kind of very very funny and humorous group. So
it's definitely the coolest part of those sets for me is the commentaries, and it's been sad the last couple, like Picard season 1 only had one, and I think Disco season 3 didn't have any, in addition to Lower Deck season 1 not having any. Well, and lastly this week, XO6 have released their latest 1/6 scale Star Trek action figure for pre-order, and Deep Space Nine fans, I hope you are sitting down, because the latest figure release will be Captain Benjamin Sisko. The company is offering 2 versions of the Sisko figure for pre-order: the standard version that includes all the accessories you'd hope for, a baseball, a tumbler fit for deleting your personal log, phaser rifle, tricorder, and pad, and also includes removable jacket and removable vest, so you can recreate all 3 stages of Sisko's undressing himself in the pale moonlight. That version of the figure will be $215 plus a $25 shipping charge, but for the slightly more budget conscious, there will also be an essentials version of the figure, which features fewer of the accessories and just the standard uniform jacket. That version is $180 plus the $25 in shipping. Both versions of the figure are available for pre-order right now, but don't delay if you want one. XO6 have not said for sure when pre-orders on this figure will end, but it will only available for a limited time, so if you want it, you're advised to go and grab it as quickly as possible. At this point in time, you're just putting down a $25 non-refundable deposit. They will charge you later in the year when the figure is ready to ship for the remaining balance. And in addition to Sisko, the company were present at Mission Chicago and showed off a lot of cool prototypes they hope to ship to fans in the coming years, including my favorite, Captain Archer, which came complete with miniature Porthos, motion picture and Wrath and Khan versions of Kirk and Spock, Krug from Star Trek 3, Burnham, Saru, and Emperor Georgiou from Star Trek Discovery, Riker and LaForge from The Next Generation, Tuvok from Voyager, Quark from Deep Space Nine, Pike from Star Trek Discovery, and from The Cage, and from The Menagerie, and a Telosian. Not all of these figures are definitely going to make it to market, but it signals big plans and ambitions for XO6. And if sales continue to remain strong, well, it certainly looks like, from the company's perspective, the sky is the limit. Peter, if I came to you and said, Peter, I'm going to buy you any of these figures you want for your birthday, so you don't have to pay any money at all, which of these 1/6 scale action figures do you think you would want to buy?
Actually, it may end up being the Archer one. I think I have a soft spot for Enterprise, and I'm also a Quantum Leap fan. So I think so between the two, having Scott Bakula being part of 2 franchises, and I like, having that beginning early days of Federation or Starfleet, vibe that Enterprise has. So that may end up being something that's up there. But the Sisko figure, that looks really good. I'm looking at it very detailed. The detail on it, the accessories on it. I was chuckling a little when I saw the bar glass, and then they had the pose from the end of In the Pale Moonlight, which is actually one of my favorite DS9 episodes. So I would definitely like to recreate that. So it was funny to see them having all these nice little touches to the franchise and acknowledgments. So that looks really nice as well. Just very very detailed. I think the technology or what they use to create these have really been so advanced over the last few years. Years ago, it was more, plastic joints. You could see the screws, things like that. This was going back a while, but, it wasn't too far in the past. So I think nowadays with the technology and the equipment, they're putting out really top-notch action figures. So hopefully it'll be successful, and that'll continue to be for the fans who are interested in it, they continue to have that be available.
These continue to be fabulous figures. Mirror Spock was just delivered to me. I've not yet opened it. It's just came today and it's sitting downstairs. I haven't had time to open the box yet. I'm really looking forward to getting that one out and sitting him in the TOS captain's chair that I bought, which they did back when the license was held by QMX. And I'm really excited for Sisko, and I'm excited for all the others. I think I was sort of looking at the number of them that they had on display at Mission Chicago, and I was like, okay, I guess I probably can't buy every single one of these because there's a lot here. And there is sort of like a okay, you get the motion picture Spock, and then you get the Next Generation Spock, and then you get the, Wrath of Khan Spock, and it's like, oh, okay, so there's a lot of Spocks there, right? Or like the 4 Pikes they had on display, all of which were wonderful. But I didn't necessarily know I'm going to buy 4 Pikes. I bought every one up until now. Cisco makes me, what is that, 7 for 7?
Oh, okay.
But I think, or 8 for 8 if you include the captain's chair from the Enterprise E. But yeah, eventually I'm probably going to have to say, all right, maybe no more than 2 versions of each of the characters, right. No more than 2 Kirks and 2 Spocks, and choose carefully for which ones you want. So yeah, but I mean, it's extremely exciting. It's rare that, I think the one thing that X06 should be really commended for, obviously aside from making a really high quality merchandise that clearly lots of fans really want, their booth was always very busy at Mission Chicago with people checking out all of the figures. But just you have to respect that level of ambition behind the work and the way that they've generated a ton of excitement for future product by having all those prototypes on display at Mission Chicago. I'm really excited by the return of Playmates and the return of Playmates toys, but it was kind of disappointing. They did not have a presence. Aside from some banners, they did not have a presence at Mission Chicago. It would have been nice to have seen prototypes of the new action figures they had coming up, maybe some teasers for other stuff they're going to do. Maybe they'll do that next year at Mission Seattle when they actually have when they actually have stuff out. But it was really nice to see that from X06. So yeah, I say I'm eventually going to stop buying all of them when they come out, as soon as they come out, but I've not gotten there yet. So I'm setting that as my intention.
But I think you're going to try to be a X06 completist as long as you can. So you'll just sort of keep it until
that's it exactly. That's it exactly.
To be a completist. Yeah. No, I think they're having those sample mock-ups and examples, and that definitely generates buzz, because once you have fans looking at them and just kind of really thinking about how can they make it work to buy one of these whenever it does get released, it's very good for very great for business. So it's good that they're doing that. I think for me, the action figures, I collected a few of the 9-inch Playmates, but that's more recently. So I didn't really collect it during when they were, because I kind of passed that stage, but I kind of went back recently once I started to attend conventions again a few years ago.
And it's nice to be an adult who has money.
Right, exactly right. It was hard to, it's a little bit hard when you have less discretionary income when you're, a college student, for example. So you kind of pay your tuition or you buy an action figure. So you pay your tuition, and then, but now you can buy some action figures that are, out there. So I've been, kind of went back and bought a few, just a handful of them. But who knows? Maybe one day it'll sort of continue. I do. Hopefully, once the Playmates, the new Playmates sort of come back, and they'll be out there, and probably look into those a little bit more.
And much more affordable than the X06s.
That's right. I think you could buy, I don't know, 6 of them, or I don't know the price, but something like that. So.
Oh, easily. I bought all of the 8 they have coming out, and I still didn't spend as much as one X06 figure.
So I think I'll go that way for now. So.
Well, and just a reminder before we pivot to the speculation section of today's episode, I have 2 exclusive Mission Chicago Geordie Bears that I am giving away. All you need to do in order to win a Geordie Bear is to tweet at the show account on Twitter at WeeklyTrek and tell me which city you would like to see the official Star Trek Mission Convention take place after Chicago in 2022 and after Seattle in 2023. So where do you want the convention to take place in 2024? Entries are open worldwide. Yes, I will ship if you are the winner, I will ship your Geordie Bear anywhere in the world, and I will be accepting entries until Thursday, May 5th. So you only have a couple more days in which to get your entry in if you want a shot at winning the Geordie Bear. So tweet at the Weekly Trek account, where do you want the next official Star Trek Mission Convention to take place? And maybe a Geordie Bear can be yours. All right, well, we've talked about the facts, and now let's speculate on what's going to happen in the future of Star Trek.
You make some very good points, Captain. But it's still all speculation and theory.
So each week, my guest and I give you a wish or theory we're nurturing about any of the shows or the future of the franchise. So Peter, let's hear your theory or wish for this week.
Okay, Alex, it's actually a wish. And
go for it.
It's actually related to Enterprise. So we're, in the Kurtzman era of Trek, we've had seen Picard return, we've seen Janeway return. So I would like to have some type of return of Captain Archer and the NX-01 crew.
Yes.
So they had 4 seasons, and at least I think they, kind of ended a little earlier than it should have, for various reasons. But there's still stories to be told. So I'm hoping that if it's ideally it'll be not live action, but even an animated show in which they could sort of bring the actors' voices. But if they can't, not physically be able to, to film a series, even an animated or a limited series or a TV movie or. Originally, a few years ago, I was thinking, oh, this would be a great short trek idea when they were doing short treks, and then they kind of stopped. But it's just something to sort of continue the story of that era. And I mean, two thoughts that I had was actually related to the Romulan War, which was, I think these were some things they had originally maybe had some early ideas when they were originally planning on what they would talk about, they would do if it continues. So the Romulan War, and then sort of the rise of the Federation, which was actually a novel series.
Kind of a good novel series.
Good novels, yeah. So they had I think five books that was really good and talks about sort of what happens sort of after the NX era of the NX-01, but it still continued with some of all the different crew members doing different things, but kind of working together, helping the Federation grow, build and grow. So those were two story arcs, seasons, I guess, if we were to use a serialized model that could be for Enterprise. So I'm hoping that one day we can sort of see the return. I know there's been a few callbacks on the current Trek shows to Enterprise. From I think Lower Decks had a couple. I think Discovery had some as well. So I'm hoping that there might be some interest down the road, and then we can see a return in some way, shape, or form of Enterprise.
And in your ideal version of the return of Enterprise, Trip Tucker, dead or alive?
Oh, alive. Alive. I think that These Are the Voyages is I'm going to go with the sort of the book version of that story, and kind of which retcon that to be something else. So I would like Trip to be alive and have Connor Trenier come back and sort of just continue and pick up where he left off. I think he's actually probably one of my favorite character on Enterprise. So it was great, and still alive.
I love Enterprise. I would absolutely love to get something Enterprise related back again. Hey, I mean, Star Trek Picard season 3 is wrapped filming, which means that there's a slot on the schedule for a new show. Alex Kurtzman, where are you? We need you. It's time for an Enterprise continuation.
Yeah, and I think the Enterprise has gotten more fans in recent years, and
totally,
through streaming or just interest. People who didn't watch Enterprise during its initial run in the early aughts, I think they've started to discover about the show. So I think the interest in the show is greater now than it was during when it was on. So I think that could be a good time to bring them back in some way. Mm-hmm.
All right, let me tell you my theory. So Picard season 2 finale is coming up next week, and season 2 has been great, as we talked about at top. Really loved it. It's been this big time travel romp. Future's End meets past tense meets the voyage home, spread over a 10 episode season, with Q, with Picard doing some cool stuff. Lots of callbacks and references to various different Star Trek time travel shows. But it's not had the same kind of level of cameos or appearances by legacy characters or other members of the TNG crew, which Picard season 1 had, right? Mm-hmm. It had Data, and it had Riker, and it had Troy. Now we know that Picard season 3 is going to have a return of each of the cast members of Star Trek The Next Generation. All of the 7 main cast members from the last 6 seasons of the show are going to be in season 3 of Picard, and they're all going to have meaty roles. I think that, so first of all, I think that the story of season 2 will wrap up at the end of season 2. And I think in that last episode next week, we're going to get, once they pop back to the 25th century, one of the TNG crew members is going to be waiting there for them as a way of then kicking us off on the season 3 adventure. So I'm kind of thinking at this point that the Borg stuff's going to wrap up, that the whole story's going to wrap up, and that season 3 will be something else, right? A new story that pulls in all these characters. But I think the very first thread of that is going to be laid next week as a bridge between season 2 and 3. And the big shock moment of the episode is going to be insert name of your favorite TNG cast member here, showing up in, the last 10 minutes of the episode as a way of pivoting us into season 3, which we know is coming, that they wrote at the same time, so they know where it's headed, and that it will be a cliffhanger in that regard, in that it's the sort of like the start of the season 3 story, but that we're sort of, that we'll get that legacy character as a sort of way of teasing season 3 coming next year. In which case, if I'm right and I'm going to do this, for the finale of season 1, they put Jonathan Frakes in the opening credits as like, hey, Frakes is coming back type thing. So everybody knew he was going to be in the episode. So I would make sure to cover your eyes during the opening credits of the finale of season 2, just in case there is that surprise. Because for me, with the season 1 finale, I, for whatever reason, zoned out during the credits and didn't notice that Jonathan Frakes' name was in there. So when he showed up, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. This is an incredible moment. And I would like, if it happens next week, I would like that experience again. What do you think?
Yeah, no, actually, that's a great idea. And I hope that's true, because I think this would be a good bridge between season 2 and season 3, as you mentioned before. So I think having, in addition to, this bridge, it generates, I'm sure there'll be a lot of feedback online and social media the next day when they say, who would it, what's going to happen? What do you think is happening? That kind of drives a discussion and interest and buzz over the next few months and I think they finished filming season 3 already. So
it's all done.
It is out there. Yep. Yes, it's out there. So it's going to kind of keep that discussion and keep the buzz going for that. And I think I was really, like, pretty much all fans, really happy when I heard that the TNG crew is coming back when they announced it during First Contact Day. So I think having this bridge and kind of helps tee that up. And I think once in a while, and I remember Enterprise did something like that in that when Enterprise had, I think it was like Stormfront, the last episode of season 3 and the last episode of season 3 was almost like a tease to the first episode of season 4 with the, time travel back in like World War II alternate timeline story. So they could kind of do that. So, and I hope that would be great kicking off to what's going to be season 3. I think season 3 will be great, and definitely looking forward to that. And I just wish we wouldn't have to wait for a year, especially since it's already out there. Like all the digital files are there, so it's we could see it. Could we just see it now?
Yeah, right. Just keep going another 10 weeks.
Yeah, we have no problem with that. You could just slot it in there, and then we can just have double Star Trek. So so I hope they do that. It's actually a funny thing you mentioned about the title, the main credits, because I ended up I do watch them. I watch them all the time. I don't skip them. But the bad side of that is that for Picard season 2, it gives you that hint of whether Eve and Gloria is going to be there, whether Orla Brady is going to be there. And then
I try and ignore the names flashing up on the screen.
Yeah. So I used to not ignore it, but I think I'm starting to come around saying, I should probably just turn around, because I do like to listen to the main title. So I'll just turn around, but I shouldn't really look at the names, because it ended up did a little spoiler. I mean, it's not a major stuff, but it was kind of just saying, this person's coming back for at least this episode in this setup.
Yeah.
So we'll lesson learned there.
Yeah, no, totally. Do you have a theory or a wish for Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, or Prodigy that you'd like to share? Tweet them to me at WeeklyTrek, or email them to me at weeklytrek@thetricordertransmissions.com, and I might feature your theory in a future episode. Well, that's all the time we've got for this episode of Weekly Trek. Thank you so much to my guest, Peter Hong, for joining me today. Peter, how can people contact you if they want to continue the conversation?
Sure. Well, the best way is through Twitter. My handle is at PeterTrek1, the number 1. And I'm also a co-host of Trek Book Club on Twitter. So I can also be reached at Trek Book Club. So it's really great. Fun chatting with you, Alex, and talking about Trek. Really had a great time. So thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you, Peter. I'm looking forward to having you back in the future.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
And you can find the show on Twitter at WeeklyTrek and me at Alexander T. Perry. And if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice. And please check out some of the other great shows on the Tricorder Transmissions. And if you like our shows, please also consider becoming a Patreon of Tricorder, which you can find at patreon.com/the Tricorder Transmissions. And lastly, if you're looking for Star Trek news on the internet, I hope you will turn to trekcore.com. Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you to all of my listeners. And until next week, live long and prosper.